is the wonderful flying living memorial to the United States Air Force, 8th Air Force, Allied men that gave the ultimate sacrifice, 79,000 people. Ladies and gentlemen, Sally B.
Outside that line. Yes, the outer line.
The B-17B, Sally B, as she's affectionately known to her friends, supporters, and through air shows over the last 42 years, a testament to the incredible support, Supporters Club, and voluntary donations. No government support, no organisation, no official Ministry of Defence, or indeed the United States Air Force are keeping the aircraft. This aircraft is flying entirely by love, dedication and donations. But out to our left-hand side there, beautiful platform, that 100-foot wingspan, and those beautiful 4 engines powering the aircraft at some nearly 290 miles an hour. A beautiful, graceful turn here, and as she turns, you should be able to see a beautiful underside shot of the bomb bay door. B-17B, Sally B's is her name today, but she's affectionately known as a flying fortress. 2 reasons for that. 1, it carried 13 machine guns in 8 positions, making it a very prickly customer if you try to attack it, but flying in formation, each aircraft covering their neighbour, able to protect themselves, and also the sturdy construction, giving it the strength to survive innumerable losses and heavy attacks, withstand attacks. So, ladies and gentlemen, out to the right-hand side there, you can see it's a beautiful aircraft. It's got 4 radial engines, the 1200 horsepower Wright Cyclone turbo supercharged radial engines, immense power to lift that huge weight, that huge frame, and some 25 tons in weight in all. Capable of flying at some 290 miles an hour, that with its fuel and payload gave it a 2,000-mile range, which is what they used and needed to fly all the way in daylight to Germany and back. Normal bomb load between 6,000 and 8,000 pounds. Is the United States Air Force's 8th Air Force memorial flight. It is a living memorial, a 25-ton, 287-mile-an-hour living war memorial. The most important date each year is a flypast over the Madingley Military Cemetery near Cambridge, where a lot of the United States airmen are buried, and some 79,000 airmen gave their lives the ultimate sacrifice in World War II. Above all, she flies in honour and remembrance of all Allied airmen and all those that made the ultimate sacrifice. Sally B has appeared in a number of films used routinely for film work. She's appeared as Sally B in the Memphis Belle film. Again, a great film showcasing her talents and, of course, the crews and sacrifices made in World War II, and also been used in We'll Meet Again, filmed back in the 80s. Replica turrets are added, but the income does allow her to keep flying into her 42nd year. Now this aircraft, original serial number 4485784, was built in Burbank, California, actually just behind the Hollywood sign in Los Angeles, delivered to the United States Air Force in June 1945 and just missing the action. Used for training in the United States and served also as a mapping aircraft with French meteorological and mapping agencies. It was bought by businessman Ted White in 1975 and transferred to be based at Duxford. Indeed, the Imperial War Museum, although one of the supporters, it's not one of the aircraft that they look after, but it is housed, hangars and operates from the Imperial War Museum at Duxford.
And now as the smoke comes on, a memorial to those airmen, you'll see on the right hand side the Blenheim positioning for the flypast.
So, ladies and gentlemen, Ellie Stallingbow, the owner, operator, leader of the Preservation Trust, she'd like to dedicate that smoke to not only the 79,000 Allied servicemen, but all the supporters, making small or large donations that keeps the aircraft flying. No other official support, no government agency, no official company supports it other than just donations. And that's a beautiful time to remind you of the www.sallyb.org.uk, which is the website you should go to, please, and make a donation to keep this beautiful icon flying.
Well, thanks for that. So you'll see now a unique opportunity, particularly for all you keen and budding aviation photographers out there. This is not something you get to see very often at all. And already straight away you see the difference between these bombers. The Blenheim have had a very different background and history to it, of course, but the manoeuvrability it has, because it started, well, it started initially as a civilian project, but also was a fighter. Hard to believe that a substantial aircraft like that. So, but essentially we're going to see two bombers here. The beautiful, delightful Sally B, representing the US crews, of course, and then coming up fast behind now for two, we hope maybe three flypasts joined with the Blenheim. We're very fortunate in having two really expert crews available to us here. Of course, the man who renovated and put this aircraft back in the air, the Blenheim, in the hands of John Romain. Alongside him, his son today, George Romain. They know each other well, of course. Both aircraft based at Duxford. Very much the centre of aviation history, both British and particularly American, with the substantial American museum there. I recommend a visit to Duxford at any stage you happen to be travelling in that direction up the M11. Maybe take time out next time you're going or coming back from Stansted. It will prove a very worthwhile day, and you can learn more, particularly about the Sally B Supporters Club while you're there, and of course the Aircraft Restoration Company. It's an absolutely stunning silhouette, isn't it? I think you will all agree against that deep blue sky. Absolutely fabulous visibility here today. The aircraft just stretching apart now. Blenheim, the fastest light bomber of its day, faster even than some of the fighter aircraft of its time, and became the backbone of the light bomber force. You've heard all about the history, of course, of the B-17 itself and the tremendous and daring missions that those airmen went on, and the bravery and courage. But now, as Sunny B departs to the east, the sky is now taken by the mighty and delightful Blenheim, a truly unique British aircraft. The history of this aircraft is long and formative, and it had an important milestone in the history of British aviation, although the particular history of this aircraft is rather fraught, and it's remarkable that it even survived. It's being repaired to carry out a lasting heritage, one hopes, and a living memorial for the whole nation. Originally built in 1934 as a small airliner, it was a private venture by the Bristol Aircraft Company. The aircraft was funded by Lord Rothermere, named the Spirit of Britain. It was presented to the nation, and after modification as a bomber, it became the first stress-skinned aircraft accepted by the Royal Air Force. At the start of World War II, the Royal Air Force had more Blenheims in service, well over 1,000, than any other aircraft. Very much an unslung hero, or an unsung, I say, not an underslung. Getting my words mixed here. It's very much, it bore the brunt of the early war bombing effort, and its crews paid a heavy price defending the nation. Pressed into roles it was not even designed for such as a long-range fighter and a night fighter, it really became the first multi-role aircraft. Looking absolutely splendid. It really is a fabulous time of day to be displaying an aircraft, the wind just backing off and the sea calming. I have little doubt the crew is really relishing the opportunity to display these very vintage aircraft. The crews liked the Blenheims, and Winston Churchill paid homage to their bravery, comparing them to the charge of the Light Brigade. Not the only project. There was a project to restore Blenheim before this. It was recovered in Canada, restored to fly after 12 years of engineering, led by a small but dedicated volunteer staff and a full-time licensed engineer. Made its first flight in May 1987, but was tragically wrecked only 4 weeks after its return to the air. The restoration team, however, were not daunted by this, and they were determined that after all that effort that a Blenheim would fly again, and a decision was made to resurrect another Blenheim project. After another 5-year-long restoration, largely undertaken by the same volunteer force, this aircraft became once again internationally known as the only flying example of an early war Royal Air Force light bomber. One of only 2 British World War II bombers flying, the Lancaster, at the Battle of Britain Memorial flights being the other. Of course, there is one other Lancaster based across in Canada, which we had the pleasure of seeing a few years ago on its tour of Europe. The second project, however, was not without difficulties, and in August 2003 significant damage occurred during an accident at Duxford itself. A trust was formed after that to complete the restoration yet again. To speed up the repair, a new company was formed called Blenheim Duxford Limited, and they engaged John's company, the aircraft restoration company at Duxford, to supply the engineers to work on it. This also has a knock-on effect in that it helps to encourage new and young people to get involved in the restoration and preservation of old aircraft, something that we all need to be alert to, something that many of us, including myself, are involved in. We're constantly looking for younger people to take up the helm of managing our nation's heritage. So after all that time and effort, several projects, lots and lots of work, just a couple of years ago, it's very privileged to invite the Blenheim back to Bicester, which itself was a Bicester airfield a couple of years ago. And since then, John and this aircraft have been seen at many air displays around the United Kingdom, and it's a real joy. Last pass now, so whatever you've got, hats, coats, umbrellas, ice creams, do give John and George a wave in the Blenheim. Very graceful and stately, as Andy's just been describing alongside me here, and just a stunning view looking out to the east there of the Needles, the Isle of Wight, and over to the west, the Purbeck Hills, looking absolutely magnificent. Well, just a quick check of the itinerary.